If you're looking for the best bets to make some money for UFC 319, then you came to the right place. It's your boy Jacob from Topside MMA, and today I'm going to give you all my bets for UFC 319, give you my reasoning, and tell you everything you need to know to make some money for this card. Now let's get right into it. First up, we got Idiris versus Morales. I don't have anything on this card. You know, both of these guys are new to the UFC. I know Morales had a little stint a couple years ago, but you know, both of these guys are fresh. This fight was made so damn recently. They haven't had a full camp to prepare for, so the huge money line being so wide, you know, I didn't want to have anything on this. You know, it just nothing really stood out to me here, so I didn't want to place anything on here. Have no action on this first one. Next up, I like this fight for betting wise. You know, I like the Karine Silva versus Dione Barbosa. I like the Dione Barbosa plus 7.5 alternate spread. I put 1 unit on that at minus 220. Both of these girls have fought already. Dione Barbosa won their previous fight. Yes, she's stepping up on short notice, but she looked great on the scales. She looked great at weigh-ins. She looked great at the face-offs. She seems completely ready to go. She doesn't seem tired or weak or anything like that at all. She's super talented. Dione Barbosa, I'm high on her. You know, she's looked better and better and better as we've seen her perform. Karine Silva in her last fight just completely sold as a minus 350 favorite. So now I can't have as much confidence in her to get the job done here. Now, there's a chance that she could win the fight. You know, I'm not saying Dione Barbosa is a lock or anything like that. This could go either way, but I just think neither of these girls are likely going to get finished. They're both BJJ black belts on the ground. Dione Barbosa is a black belt in judo too, so Karine Silva is going to have a much harder time taking this to the ground. And if this becomes a striking match for the first couple rounds, or you know, first 2 rounds, or maybe it becomes a striking match the entire time if neither one's able to land a takedown. Both of these girls do have not the best cardio as well too, so I don't see this going to be a 3rd round grappling back and forth. You know, if both of these girls can't get a finish in the first 2 rounds, I likely see them keeping it on the feet for the majority of it. It's likely going to be a very close fight. I could see this being a split decision. So for the plus 7.5, I'm taking it a little bit safe because sometimes the plus 3.5 spreads sometimes screw you with the judges if there's a corrupt or stupid judge who doesn't know what he's doing. So, and for this too, the bets in green are the ones that I have already placed. Like we saw before, the bets in white, obviously there's nothing here, but the ones in white with no highlight, those are ones that I'm just thinking about but haven't placed yet. So I have placed this Dione Barbosa plus 7.5 alternate spread, 1 unit minus 220. Next up, this was tough. I was going heavy on this Bryan battle versus Nursulton Ruziboev fight. I know it's canceled, but I wanted to still include it. I was really going heavy on this. I liked Nursulton Ruziboev. I had his money line. I also took the plus 7.5 alternate spread at minus 170. I thought that was insane value. I almost doubled down for 2 units on it. But anyway, it sucks this one was canceled. It was going to be my play of the week, which we'll get into later in this video. But yeah, we got screwed on that one. Next up, we got Edson Barboza versus Drakkar Klose. I know this is a bit of a kind of a 1-800 play here, but you know, I like Edson Barboza in this. I think he should be able to get the job done. He should be the more dangerous striker. We see from the face-offs and the weigh-ins in my last video I talked about this, he looks a lot better than Drakkar. Drakkar seems like he's going through the motions. And the thing with Edson too, I almost like him stepping up a weight class because any of the problems he's had with his durability or his chin should hopefully be a lot better stepping up a weight class where he doesn't have to cut as much weight, so that should help his durability if anything. So for almost a pick'em, I'm throwing half a unit on Edson Barboza. I think he gets the job done. A little bit biased too. I really like Edson Barboza, and I am not a fan of Drakkar Klose. I think he's kind of soft. A little bit biased, but at the same time, for a pick'em, I'm taking the coin flip here. I'm glad to take the coin flip. I'm comfortable whichever way this goes. Next up, Chase Hooper versus Alexander Hernandez. I have Chase Hooper in the later parlay we'll get into at the end, but in terms of the single straight bets, I got nothing for this one. If you guys like the content, please consider subscribing. Check out my older videos too. I got a locks and traps video. I got a weigh-in recap video. If you guys like the content, it means a ton. I appreciate it so much. So please consider subscribing if you haven't yet. Anyway, next up, we got Jessica Andrade versus Loopy Godinez. Now, or why did I say Loopy Godinez? But I don't know. But for this fight, I don't have anything. I have a parlay with Loopy later on in the video we'll get into. But in terms of the singles, I don't have anything for this one. Now, next up, we got Baysangur Susurkaev versus Eric Nolan. I'm considering doing the fight to start round 2 at plus 110. Now, we know Baysangur Susurkaev is a finisher. He goes in there and knocks dudes out. We know this. But Eric Nolan has never been knocked out before. He had 1 submission loss in his entire career, but other than that, he's never been knocked out. So I'm thinking, I'm so close. Depending on how the earlier fights go, because I do have a good amount of action on Dione Barbosa. Depending on how that fight goes, I might place this one. I'm kind of 50-50 on it yet, but the way I was looking at it was, you know, what happens? Eric Nolan gets clipped, but maybe he's able to wrestle and hang on for a round. I could see him getting finished maybe in the second or third round. But, you know, maybe he's able to survive. So for plus money, just the fight to start the second round, I'm considering it because both of these guys are short notice. Yes, Baysangur is the higher weight class. Eric is going up a weight class, so I could see him really being punished for the weight and the power, not being able to handle it as much. So I could see this going under, getting a finish in the first round for Baysangur, but I just wanted to include this. If you're kind of on the fence about it, this line kind of stood out to me. Not sure if I'm going to play it yet, but I'm definitely looking at it. Now, next up, we got GM3 versus Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. I have 2 bets already placed for this. I have Gerald Meerschaert submission only. So that means this only way this bet is actually counted is if there's a submission. If Gerald Meerschaert gets the submission, this bet will hit. If Michael Oleksiejczuk submits GM3 or Gerald Meerschaert, this bet would be a loss. But if there's a knockout or if this bet goes to a decision, then you get a complete refund on it. That's how this bet works. So it's minus 310. Yes, this line is pretty damn wide, but it's just GM3 sub only at minus 310. I thought it would be even further than that. You know, there's no way in hell. Mikhail Oleksiejczuk is completely outclassed in the grappling. He has not got a submission win in the UFC. I don't know. I think he's had like 1 submission win ever in his entire pro career. The dude does not have good ground game. He's a striker. He wants to keep it on the feet. If anyone's getting the submission here, it's going to be GM3. For minus 310, this was like, all right, no brainer. Here's a half unit. I'm putting it on there. If for whatever reason Mikhail Oleksiejczuk gets his first career submission in the UFC over GM3, then screw me. You know, I'm okay being wrong there. I almost put a full unit on this, and I damn near might. I might double down on that. It's just too good to be true. I expect it to likely be a refund, but, you know, there's always the chance. GM3, round 2, round 3 submission is always live. It could be a thing. And I think I also took the Mikhail Oleksiejczuk decision only. KO's a sub, no action, so that means this bet only will matter if it goes to a decision. If there's a knockout or a submission, you'll get a complete refund on this. Now, for minus 150, Mikhail Oleksiejczuk decision only, I really like this line. Because you'd figure, if this does go to a decision, we saw how GM3 did against Andre Petroski. You know, when he wasn't able to get the takedowns and it was stood on the feet, his striking is not good. Andre Petroski was out striking him the entire time, and Andre Petroski is a damn wrestler. Mikhail Oleksiejczuk is a good striker who should be light years ahead of GM3 on the feet. So if this, for whatever reason, this does end up going to a decision, there's only one person who's going to be doing all the damage, and that's Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. He's not going to have GM3 throwing hardly anything back at him. And if GM3 is able to hug him all the way to a decision, I don't know how he won't be able to get a submission at that point. You know, I don't see GM3 holding Mikhail Oleksiejczuk on the ground for 15 minutes and not being able to get a submission. There's just no world where I see that happening. So this line at minus 150 is one of my favorite bets of the week, actually. So I got a half unit on this. Same thing, I almost doubled down on this too, because I figured if these rounds are even remotely close, Mikhail's going to be landing more damage. He's going to have the crowd going more crazy. And GM3 doesn't have the offensive wrestling to take it to the ground. You know, he's not that good as a wrestler. Yes, he's very good on the ground when it gets there, but he doesn't have a great ability to take it to the ground. So I just don't know if he's going to be able to do that against Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. I don't think he's going to be able to. I think Mikhail Oleksiejczuk likely pops him, likely knocks him out. That's how I see this fight going. So I expect to honestly get a full refund on both of these. I feel like Michael Oleksiejczuk is likely going to get a knockout here. As you can see at the very bottom too, I'm considering just taking Michael Oleksiejczuk straight up money line. Minus 210, I think it's good value. I think he wins this fight, either knockout or a decision. I could see it going either way. You know, I do think GM3 is always live for that late submission, so I get that. Some people are sprinkling the GM3 round 2, round 3 submission. I think it's very, very live. You know, it makes total sense. I just don't think he's going to be able to do it. I think he's getting older. I think Mikhail Oleksiejczuk is taking the right steps in his career. He's fixing the holes in his game. I think he should be able to beat GM3 here. I think he does a good job. I probably will place this bet depending on how the Dione Barbosa fight goes. If those earlier fights go good in terms of the bets we have, I might put a little something on Mikhail Oleksiejczuk straight money line. But as for now, I do not have anything on it. So, but I might not put anything on this. You know, I'm kind of torn on the fence about this one. But next up, we got Tim Elliott versus Kai Asakura. I just haven't been able to get behind Kai Asakura at minus 300. Tim Elliott is a crafty veteran who will do what it takes to win. We saw he looked damn good at the weigh-ins. He looked good on the scales. I'm just a bit concerned for him, or for people calling him washed and like not being able to fight anymore. Gotta be careful, man. Tim Elliott is a crafty veteran. You know, he's beaten good guys in the UFC. We saw against the wrestler, the Russian wrestler, Tagir Ulanbekov. You know, he was able to beat him. Yeah, he used some not official methods to do so, but he's going to do what it takes to win. And Kai Asakura, we saw his ground game get exposed by Pantoja. I mean, Pantoja's a beast, so I can't really hold that against him too much, but we've seen those holes in his game, and Tim Elliott could be the one to exploit that. Now, do I think he does? Not necessarily. I don't think he does. Tim Elliott, he's getting older. He's a flyweight too, which is even worse to be an older fighter at this weight class. And we know he has bad knee problems. I talked about it in my full card breakdown. He has a history of knee injuries. So, and especially when he needs to have the wrestling game to be able to have success in this fight, and he has a bad knee, that does not give me a lot of confidence in him. I think Asakura should be able to get this done. It could be a knockout, could be a decision, but like I said in my last video, Tim Elliott has not been knocked out since like 2009 or something insane, so I would not hammer the Asakura knockout prop. There's a very good chance he could get the knockout. Don't get me wrong. If he landed the shots that he landed on Pantoja, on Elliott, you know, he definitely could knock him out. We've seen Asakura has power in his hands. He can throw knees. He can throw big punches. He could definitely knock Tim Elliott out. I just wouldn't hammer it this weekend. If you like Asakura, you could go for just the straight money line. Just minus 300's kind of chopped. You'd have to do it as a parlay piece. And I'm also looking at Kai Asakura as a live money line potential bet this weekend too, because if Tim Elliott is able to have some early wrestling success, this money line is likely going to tighten up. You know, it's probably going to get a lot closer from a minus 300 to maybe a minus 150. If it gets around that range, you know, I'll probably put something on Kai Asakura if this money line can shrink down by maybe half, you know, from maybe minus 300 to maybe if I can get him at like a minus 180, 150, and he doesn't seem like he's wearing out, you know, maybe I think that could be a very good live betting opportunity. I just can't get behind it for minus 300. But that does it for this one. Next up, we got Jared Cannonier versus Michael Page. Now, as of right now, I do not have anything on this. I'm kind of waiting for the earlier fights to go to see how they all end up coming to, or how they all end up going before I put any action on this, because I'm a bit worried about Jared Cannonier, man. He's pissed off. We talked about this in the weigh-in recap video. He looks ready to go. I feel like the whole weight class difference too, you know, MVP is a natural welterweight stepping up. Jared Cannonier, he's been a heavyweight before. He's a big boy. He has a lot of muscle, a lot of mass. I feel like Jared Cannonier is so pissed off with this whole situation with the UFC that I don't know. If he goes to wrestle and he just charges and blitzes MVP against the cage and holds a clinch for 15 minutes and Mario Bautista's his way to a win, I would not be mind blown, and I think he could definitely win a fight doing that. He's not going to win striking on the feet back and forth, so I feel like that's his best chance to do so. I could see him doing that, man. I would not be super confident in MVP. Anything could happen, you know what I mean? We've seen him lose before. And now he's going to be the better striker. That's why, like, for minus 200, if this was a boxing match, he should be a minus 800. You know, he would be much faster. He'd be much quicker on the feet, landing better strikes. So I still like MVP to win this fight. But I don't know. Something is just, my intuition is telling me there's might be a red flag or something might come up with this fight that's kind of making me a little bit hesitant. But also, I was looking at the Jared Cannonier plus 7.5 alternate spread. Jared Cannonier is very durable. You know, when he got knocked out against Imavov, that was a shitty call. It should not have been a knockout there. And, you know, it's like he's very durable. He's been able to hang with power punchers. And Michael Page, yes, he has a good amount of knockouts, but he's not like a brute power, just run right through you like a train, you know what I mean? Like, he is just more of a picky in and out, find his shots, counter striker type of guy, which I don't think is going to be enough to necessarily knock out Jared Cannonier. You know, he's a tough dude. I don't see him getting knocked out here. I think this likely goes long, and if it does, you know, I think Jared Cannonier can probably win at least one round on the judges' scorecards. You know what I mean? Like, or maybe he has a big moment in one of the rounds. You know, maybe he clips MVP briefly and gets him wobbled, and maybe that's enough to win it on the scorecard for one judge at least. I'm looking at it for minus 250. I really don't think that's terrible value. You know what I mean? If this does go to a decision, MVP doing a 30-27, that would surprise me. You know, I could see this being a clear 29-28 for MVP. That would make a lot of sense. You know, I just think if Jared Cannonier is getting completely outstruck on the feet for the first two rounds, I would like to imagine he switches it up and maybe he tries to wrestle. Maybe he tries to go against the cage and work the clinch, and maybe he gets around that way. You have to assume that he's going to switch something up if he's getting worked on the feet for two rounds. So, I don't know. I would be a little hesitant with this one. If I were to play either of these lines, I'd honestly rather play the Jared Cannonier plus 7.5 alternate spread, just because I think Jared Cannonier is durable enough to last 3 rounds and not get knocked out. But, like I said, I don't have anything on this fight as of right now. Waiting for the other fights to go before I place anything on this, just because I don't want to have this be the factor of going positive or negative for the night. I don't want to risk it like that. So next up, we got Jeff Neal versus Carlos Prates. Same exact situation with this fight, except I guess it's a little different. Both of these guys are good strikers. It's not like there's a clear striking advantage like in the last fight. Both of these guys are good strikers. This is going to be a close fight. I do like Carlos Prates to win this. At minus 200, it's not terrible, but this is just the type of fight to me where it seems almost like a dog or pass. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be close. I forgot to include for this one too, this could be a good live betting opportunity. So I know I don't have it in yellow here, but I'm saying that now. This could be a good live betting opportunity. If either of these guys, let's say either one of them gets rocked early on and the money lines completely skyrocket one way or the other, I'd probably play the other side. I'd probably take, if either of them become a plus 500 or something crazy within the first round, they might be worth a sprinkle, or plus 1,000, they might be worth a little sprinkle. Just because either of these guys, they have enough power to be able to equalize a fight at any point, especially considering it's likely going to be a striking match on the feet. Anything can happen. Both these guys have power. So I'm looking for the potential live betting plays here. I'm not playing anything yet. If I was to play anything, instead of taking Carlos Prates, I would honestly rather take the over 1.5 rounds at minus 225. But the only thing that's keeping me off of placing that bet, so I'm probably not going to place this bet, is because Jeff Neal has been saying like, oh, I'm ready to crash out. I'm ready for a 1-round fight. I don't see this going beyond 1 round. That doesn't rub me the right way. That doesn't make me feel any more confident about this bet. So ever since then, I'm like, I'm not going to play that line. So if you're thinking about it, I get it. I'm like, I was close to playing it. I haven't played it yet. If all the other bets go well in the night, I might have a little action on this. I might do a little something on Carlos Prates, maybe a little on the over. But as of right now, and most likely, I'm probably just going to sit this one back and watch as a fan because I'm super excited about this fight. I like both of these guys, so I'm probably just going to take this one off in terms of the bets. But if I were to play something, it probably would be on the Carlos Prates side. But just want to let you guys know. Now, next up, Lerone Murphy versus Aaron Pico. Same thing. I'm considering Lerone Murphy moneyline here. At the plus odds, it's dog or pass. If you're playing Aaron Pico and you're betting on Aaron Pico, you're absolutely insane to me. I don't see why anyone would do that. Minus 200 for a guy making his UFC debut. His last level of competition's low. Yeah, he has a wrestling background that he could rely on. Lerone Murphy's not bad with the wrestling, though. Lerone Murphy's not just some can that can be destroyed in the wrestling. So I don't get really where Pico has a huge advantage here. Yeah, he has raw power, but Murphy's fought guys with raw power. He's fought the Josh Emmets. He's dealt with power. He's been able to survive. He fought Dan Ige. He was able to survive there. Lerone Murphy is a durable dude who's proven himself in the UFC. Yes, I could see Aaron Pico potentially winning this fight. I think Aaron Pico is very impressive. He should have a decent future in the UFC. He looks good. He looks promising. I'm not saying there's no shot he wins this fight. It's just for those odds, the only value here is on Lerone Murphy. There's no value to play Aaron Pico at all. I don't have anything on Lerone Murphy just yet. Something about when there's a huge public dog where everyone seems to be picking the underdog kind of rubs me the wrong way, kind of throws me off because it just seems like there's a robbery waiting to happen. This fight likely goes to a decision. It's likely a 29-28. I could see this being a split decision robbery. It just seems like there's a lot of BS that could happen here because the UFC wants to push Aaron Pico. Lerone Murphy's not the most entertaining. It seems like there is an agenda with Aaron Pico here. Same with Baysangur, Susurkaev. It seems like there is an agenda, and I don't like going against the agenda because it usually makes you lose money. So I'm staying off on this one. If all the bets for the earlier fights go really well, I might have a little something on Lerone Murphy. Maybe Lerone Murphy by decision, maybe Lerone Murphy over 1.5 rounds. I might dip and dabble on that depending on how the later fights go or the earlier fights go, but as of right now, I don't have anything here. Now, we got DDP versus Khamzat, the final fight. As of right now, I got nothing on this fight. I got absolutely nothing, but these are the lines that I'm considering. One, Khamzat Chimaev over 2.5 takedowns. At plus money, I think this is damn good value. The only way I guess you think this wouldn't hit is if you think Khamzat just runs right through DDP. He lands one takedown, gets to his back, and the fight's over. Like a Robert Whittaker situation. If you think that's the case, then no, screw this bet. Don't go for it. But if you think this fight goes into the second round, the third round, fourth round, if you think this fight goes late, this Khamzat over 2.5 takedowns line is looking like straight money. Because it's like, you see Khamzat, he's able to land takedowns later on. Yes, he starts to wear out a little bit, but we see when guys are able to get up, he can take guys up and down, up and down. I forget, it was either his fight against Usman or Burns. It didn't feel like it, but it's like Khamzat landed like 4 takedowns in the first round. It was against one of those guys where it's like you don't really like feel like he's landing that many takedowns and like when you're watching it. But then I was looking through the stats and I was like, oh shit, he landed 4 takedowns in one round. And we've seen DDP taken down over and over again. We saw Brunson take him down multiple times. So it's like he can be taken down, and I think DDP is tough enough to where I don't think he's going to get submitted in the first round. I don't think it's going to go down like that. It could, definitely could. That's why this line is about pick 'em for a reason, But if you think this fight goes over, I think this is a decent line. I'm considering it. If all the bets earlier, like I said, go well, I might get a little something on this. Same with the over 1.5 rounds. It's kind of about the same, but I feel like if this goes over 1.5 rounds, I feel like he likely hits that over 2.5 takedown, especially 2.5 rounds. I know that's what the line is at right now. If you think this fight goes over 2.5 rounds and you're taking that, I think the over 2.5 takedowns is solid value. Because I see that Khamzat, that's the way he's going to be able to win this fight is through the takedowns. So I don't know. I like this line. I'm not playing it. There have been a couple of times where I've been screwed, where it's like you have the wrestler who should obviously go for the takedowns, and then of course they don't. In the one fight you need them to. Sometimes I get screwed on takedown lines. We've had success. We've had ups and downs with these takedowns. So I'm not the most hesitant to play this. It just stood out to me like, oh, that seems like good value for plus money. But I just wanted to point that out. Same with the over 1.5 rounds. I don't have anything on this. Like I said, I have nothing on this as of right now. So I'm not telling you to put anything on this, but I just wanted to point these out because they stood out to me. Same with the Khamzat Chimaev money line, a 260, almost 250. I think that's where the value's at, honestly, before the fight starts. If you're placing any bets on this before the fight starts, I feel like you got to pick Khamzat. You got to put Khamzat. If you have Khamzat in your parlays, I don't see anything wrong with that. It makes sense for the money, for the odds. Makes sense because he's likely going to come out hot. He's going to have the better start, most likely early on. That's kind of how this fight should go on paper, It should be probably Khamzat early on, or it should be DDP later on. If this goes to a decision, it could be a coin toss. I was forgetting to see, too. I kind of wanted to mention this. I'll pull this up on my phone right now because I forget exactly what it was at. But I looked at the decision-only prop for this fight, and it was, what was it? The decision-only prop. So, if there's a knockout or submission, you get a refund. If this goes to a decision, that's when the bet would cash or miss. For DDP, it's plus 110. For Khamzat, it's minus 145. So, not quite a pick 'em, but it is close. Like, it's very close. They're saying Khamzat has a very slight edge. I think he's like a 56% chance, they're saying, to win if this goes to a decision. So that's damn near a coin toss if this goes to the distance on who's going to win. So that tells me enough, like, what, I might just sit this one out. But if you are betting this, and if you have money on Khamzat, I would look to have the live play, like I have here at the very bottom, potential live bet for DDP live money line later on into this fight. DDP, if he's going to win this fight, it's going to be in the later rounds or on the scorecards. He's not going to finish Khamzat in the first 2-3 rounds. I don't see that happening. Khamzat has a good shin. Yeah, he's been clipped a couple times, but the dude is durable as hell, man. You're not going to get Khamzat out of there. I don't see him being finished unless he just absolutely is exhausted in like the 4th, 5th round. I don't know. If you look at the odds, they're like plus 4,000 for a DDP round 4 or 5 finish or something insane for a reason. Khamzat is just a durable ass dude. Same with DDP. He's durable too. Maybe not as durable as Khamzat, as we've seen him finish before in the past, but he's a very durable. So I see this fight easily could go over. I could definitely see it. So I'd be a little bit hesitant on this one, but I totally get why people are doing the Khamzat pre-fight DDP live bet. It makes sense if you want to go for that hedge play. That's something I'm looking into doing and something that I probably will dip my toes in. So anyway, now we got the parlays up next. We're going to go through all my parlays. Not a lot, but we got a couple. But first, if you guys like the content, please consider subscribing. Like we said earlier, appreciate all the love. I appreciate all the support. If you guys like the video, if you guys like the content I've been putting out with my last couple videos and you got value from it, please consider subscribing. It means a ton, and I appreciate it a bunch. So thank you guys once again. Now, for the parlays, we got my first parlay is Barbosa versus Silva to go over 1.5 rounds and Loopy Godinez plus 7.5 alternate spread. We got minus 217. I got half a unit on this. I like this parlay a lot. I really like the Barbosa versus Silva over 1.5 rounds. Both of these girls are very durable. They fought before and they went to a decision. Neither of these girls have been finished in the UFC. I like that leg a lot. I think that leg is cash. I also like Loopy Godinez plus 7.5 alternate spread. Now, like I said, I've almost pick flipped. I was a lot less confident in Loopy Godinez this week. I almost placed her money line. I was going to consider that, but after the weigh-ins and the face-offs, I was like, screw that. I'm not placing that. I don't want to take the risk, especially with her being a favorite. If she was the underdog, maybe. But I really like the plus 7.5 alternate spread. She's super durable. She's never been finished. And she has the wrestling advantage here. So, maybe Jessica Andrade starts to hit her up, piece her up on the feet. Maybe she gets hurt a little bit. She can shoot a takedown, take it to the ground, recover. She should be able to be fine. I don't see her being finished because she has that wrestling base. She has those skills to take it to the ground. If she's in any type of trouble or sticky situation on the feet, she can do that last minute resort to the takedown to keep her alive. And at that point, I think she should be able to win at least one round on the judges' scorecard. She should be able to do it. I don't see her being finished, so I like the odds on this one. I have half unit on this play. I already have this bet placed in. And the other parlay I'm considering is, I called it the smash parlay for Baysangur, Susurkaev, and Khamzat Chimaev money lines just straight up at minus 202. I think both of these guys have a very good chance to win. Baysangur, I think he has a much higher chance to win. Obviously, the odds suggest it. But, I just kind of threw this out there. I like this. I'm actually probably going to throw a half unit on this, especially because I'm trying to go for a Khamzat probably pre-fight DDP live bet hedge. I am looking to play that. So this is going to be one half of that. I might do this for half a unit. And then I think I'll probably do Khamzat money line straight up for half a unit too. And then look for the DDP live betting hedge. But yeah, that does it for the parlays. And last up, we got the play of the week. Got for you boys this week: Barbosa versus Silva over 1.5 rounds, like that last leg, or the last parlay. And we got Chase Hooper money line. This is my play of the week for UFC 319. Now, we already talked about Barbosa versus Silva over 1.5 rounds. I like Chase Hooper a lot in this spot. I think the only way he loses to Alexander Hernandez is if he gets a unlucky round 1 knockout. We've seen Alexander Hernandez, as fights go later on, he can be broken down. He can lose, even if it's decisions. He got a split decision over Austin Hubbard. I'm like, oh my goodness. If you look through his resume, it is just not very impressive. He's not the guy we thought he was originally when he got into the UFC. He's very big. He's very strong. There is the potential threat of him holding Chase Hooper against the cage and just Mario Bautistaing his way to a win. I'm very aware of that. I totally get that could happen. That's definitely a thought in the back of my mind. But I'm just not super scared about that, just because I think Chase Hooper's striking has evolved so much. He's longer, he's taller, he's bigger. I'm not in like muscle size, but I mean, he's just like the lengthier fighter. He should be able to keep this from range if he wants. If he takes it to the ground, he's going to be the far superior grappler. Yes, Alexander Hernandez is a BJJ black belt who has good grappling. I think he only has one submission loss, but we've seen Chase Hooper actually absolutely work Jim Miller on the ground. It wasn't even close. Yeah, he's older, but Jim Miller is a crafty vet who's more of a crafty vet than Alexander Hernandez is. So I think he should be able to win this fight whichever way it goes. I like Chase Hooper. Yes, the line is a bit wide. It's a bit chalky, but I like Chase Hooper. I'm confident enough to put him in my play of the week. And I think he gets it done. I think every single fight we see from Chase Hooper, he looks better and better and better. Yes, he got knocked out by Steve Garcia, but that was a weight class that was lower. Now he's moving up. He has not lost at lightweight. He's looking better and better and better. I like him a lot. Got Chase Hooper in the play of the week, minus 196 odds for 1 unit to win 0.51 units returned. So that's the play of the week for this week. And this is the entire street. This is all the bets that we talked about, all of them in a row. We got all the fights in order. If you guys want to pause it, read it over. But yeah, this is my full bet slate for UFC 319. I'm excited. Not a ton of action, not going too extreme. As you can see too, I got a little bit of more action earlier on in the card. And then later on, this is where it's going to be the chalky area. This is where it's going to get, or choppy, I guess. There's a lot of live betting potential plays. This is when it's going to get really interesting. This card could go, the slate, like positive, negative wise, it could go one of two ways depending on how these go. I feel like make sure not to overextend on these because these fights are closer than people think. If you want to have a little bit of action in them, I totally get it because I probably will too. I'm looking at probably a little MVP, maybe a little Carlos Prates, Lerone Murphy. I like these lines. I might play them depending on how these earlier fights go, especially the Dione Barbosa one. I'm relying a lot on that because I got it in 1, 2, 3 bets, which is pretty much the majority of my bets for the week. We're relying on Dione Barbosa, so depending on how this goes, it'll be a big decision or factor for me depending on how heavy I go on these later ones because I'm definitely considering them, just haven't done it yet. The one that I am definitely going to be doing is something with Khamzat Chimaev with a DDP live bet hedge. I definitely will be doing something here, so I'm keeping that line. as a very likely bet that I'm looking to place, for the hedge. But anyway, guys, that does it for this week's best bets. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like, subscribe, comment, do all that. It means a ton on the race to 1,000 subs. So, we're trying to get there one sub at a time. So thank you guys for all the love, all the likes, the comments, subscriptions. It means a ton. I read all you guys' comments, try to get back to everyone. So thank you guys so much for everything you guys have done for me. I appreciate it a ton. I hope you guys make some money on this card. Let me know if there's any bets you like from what I have, or any bets you guys have that you like that I haven't thought of yet. So let me know all that stuff down in the comment section. And until I see you guys in the next one, it's your boy Jacob from Topside MMA, and I'm out. So peace.